Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, an historic event in Israel as more than 1,000 pastors and influencers travel to the Holy Land to show their support for the Jewish state in an unprecedented visit. Speakers at the gathering making it clear Christian leaders have to take a strong stand against the rising tide of anti-Semitism around the world. And U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee warns of a rising danger in the church, as some believe Israel does not matter anymore. We're going to bring you the story, reporting from Jerusalem. Here at home, the key question investigators are asking after the shooting of 2 members of the National Guard in the nation's capital. How was he radicalized? We're going to hear from an expert on terrorism. And the Christmas season is officially underway right here at CBN with the annual Grand Illumination at the Founders Inn. We're going to bring you a first-hand look. All those stories and more right now on CBN NewsWatch.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
It is Thursday, the 4th day of December. We're going to begin this half hour with an historic event in Israel as more than 1,000 pastors and Christian influencers are in the Holy Land this week. Organizers call it the largest gathering of its kind since the founding of Israel. Chris Mitchell brings us the story now. He's reporting from Jerusalem.
And Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
A partnership between Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Friends of Zion Museum led to the unprecedented visit.
It's the first time in history the state of Israel has officially partnered with 1,000 strategic pastors to commission them as ambassadors to combat anti-Semitism and reach the youth of their generation.
Dr. Mike Evans says Israel's fight is not just on the battlefield.
Right now there's an ideological war that Israel's losing. So they need the evangelicals, they need the Zionists to fight an ideological war.
One of the goals of this gathering is to strengthen Christian support during a time of growing global anti-Semitism. They say the pulpit must speak louder than the propaganda.
So it's just, I think, an extraordinary time for pastors to go to their pulpits and to speak with clarity and with boldness and to push back on the anti-Semitism, the bigotry that is being pushed toward Jewish people and toward the people of Israel.
Unfortunately, the pulpit has become quiet about those things. We've allowed cultural voices to speak louder to the congregation than the pastors have on these topics. So it's been motivating to make sure that we go back and bring the message of who Israel is to the Lord and our role as Christians to continue to support and pray for Israel.
There's a growing cancer within the evangelical movement in America where people are thinking Israel doesn't matter and there's nothing biblical about our relationship to Israel. This is very dangerous.
Ambassador Huckabee, a former pastor, sees a rising danger in the church.
Because this idea that God will break his covenant, or he has broken his covenant with the Jewish people, it borders on blasphemy. Because if God will break his covenant with the Jewish people, what on earth makes me think, as a Christian, that he will keep his covenant with me?
Wednesday, the pastors went to the Nova Music Festival site, where Hamas terrorists slaughtered 378 and kidnapped 44.
That was emotional. That was devastating. I have 4 teenage children in Austin. We go to music festivals. That's what you do in Austin. And to think about the kind of terror that those young people experienced, it's just unfathomable.
Jiwa believes pastors need to see Israel for themselves.
The narrative that the mainstream media, especially in the U.S., has been fed, or the messages that are out there, I think that pastors and church leaders all need to come and understand and see the truth about the matter, the true story, and what actually happened here.
This gathering is a prelude to a massive campaign planned for next year.
We're launching in 2026 a global program to reach 1 million pastors and 1 million churches globally to teach them a biblical worldview so they realize God's not canceling any promises to the Jewish people, and he's not canceling to the Christians either.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
We're going to continue our coverage now with Chris Mitchell joining us from Jerusalem. So, Chris, was this a critical time for Israel for this event to be held?
Ephraim, very, very key. I think Israel, by its own admission, feels like it's losing the information war. They see support for Israel eroding. I mean, you can see that through polling, and especially even in the church, especially in Gen Z, what they're fighting, as Mike Evans was talking about, they're fighting bots. They're fighting bots from Iran. They're fighting an information war from Qatar, and especially TikTok, to a younger generation that's really getting swarmed by a tsunami of much misinformation. So Israel right now is fighting back, and it's employing these pastors. And as Ambassador Huckabee told us in our interview, it's not to indoctrinate anybody. It's simply to let them see for themselves and tell the truth. And when they actually are here on the ground and see what's happening, it just transforms their perception of what's happening here in Israel.
In addition to what we saw in your story, what were some of the other main points speakers made?
Well, Ambassador Huckabee, he spoke there, and we also had that interview. He wants to light the pulpits of America, as he said, to be on fire with the truth, and it's time to be pro-biblical. And he says, when you're pro-biblical, you'll find your voice, and you can be pro-Israel. And he doesn't believe that pastors should actually shrink back. But as a pastor, he's saying this is the time to be on fire with the truth. They also spoke about the critics of Israel, that they have free speech. But he said that pastors, you have free speech to push back. He mentioned in particular Tucker Carlson, who has called Christian Zionism Christian heresy. Tucker Carlson has also called out Ambassador Huckabee by name. But he says America won't stand silent during this time. And he defended Israel's reaction to what happened on October 7th, those murdered, those taken hostages. Evans is talking about that we have a covenant-based relationship based on a Jewish book. And he talked about there are literally about 700 million non-Jewish Zionists, Bible-believing Christians around the world.
Is evangelical support for Israel considered more important than ever during this rising tide of anti-Semitism that we are seeing increase around the world?
I think that's exactly right. And that was the saying there, you know, that the pulpits must be stronger or louder than the propaganda. The foreign minister of Israel last night, Gideon Sar, he addressed the 1,000 pastors, and actually it's more like almost 1,100. He called it an alliance of believers, a shared faith in the Bible. He talked about a global movement, and actually a very sophisticated, very coordinated global movement, trying to erase the biblical roots of Israel and the shared faith between Jews and Christians, all trying to destroy Israel. They believe, and this was part funded by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and they realize, according to him, that they realize who their true friends are, and especially in the past 2 years since October 7th, he says Christian friends are the most important, and they are true friends.
How are the Israeli government and the Israeli people reacting to this support from evangelical Christians?
Well, they're investing in the relationship. This summit, this ambassador summit, was certainly one aspect of that. Just a few weeks ago, there was something called the Christian Media Summit. It was actually the 7th annual Media Summit. And so what Israel wants to do is have pastors and/or journalists see the land for themselves. And as I said, Ambassador Huckabee makes the point, it's not to indoctrinate anybody, but when people see, when they experience what has happened here in Israel, what Israel is like, that it's not an apartheid country, it's not committing genocide, and they can tell the truth when they go back to their pastors, congregation, communities, the truth of what they've been able to see.
What can you tell us about the campaign plan for next year to strengthen evangelical support for Israel?
Well, it's a Bible curriculum for pastors. It's not necessarily 1 million pastors coming here physically, but they're combating replacement theology, this whole idea that that the church has replaced Israel, and coming back with a biblical-based curriculum for 1 million pastors around the world, saying that God's covenant with Israel is still in effect. And where you can go to find that or find information about that and information about what's happening right now, you can go to ambassadorsummit.org. That's all one word, ambassadorsummit.org. talks about the schedule that they have here for the pastors here, some of the speakers, and also some of the plans that they have for the future. Very ambitious plans to fight back against the anti-Semitism that's coming against the state of Israel and the Jewish people worldwide.
All right, our CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell, thank you so much for your insights. Looking forward to talking to you in the days ahead. Coming up, here at home, authorities are asking a key question. How did the suspect in the shooting of 2 members of the National Guard in Washington, D.C. get radicalized? We're going to hear from an expert on terrorism. We've got that story for you when we come back. You're watching CBN NewsWatch. The 29-year-old Afghan immigrant charged in the murder of 2 members of the National Guard reportedly spent weeks alone, isolated in a dark room, during which he experienced depression and manic episodes. So how did this one-time ally of the United States and the CIA turn against the country and the people who welcomed him? America's terrorist therapist, Dr. Carole Lieberman, explains on this week's episode of The Global Link.
There are different parts to the story. It starts with his having been welcomed to the United States under the Biden regime during the turmoil in Afghanistan as Biden was surrendering. And of course, there were 70 to 80,000 Afghans brought over to America at that time. Now, you can well imagine, with all the turmoil in Afghanistan, these Afghans were not vetted. There was no way that they could be properly vetted. So, one question is, you can take the Afghan out of Afghanistan, but can you take Afghanistan out of the Afghan? So we don't know for sure that how the radicalization took place, or how he was radicalized, if he was radicalized online in addition to, once he came to America. But that is going on all the time. ISIS, Al-Qaeda, all the different terrorist organizations do public relations, do these recruitments are going on all the time. And there are people going to the Middle East all the time to join these radical organizations. Some of them don't go to the Middle East, they stay here, but they're radicalized. Then there's another aspect to it, which is that some of his friends and neighbors have supposedly contacted, when they saw that his mental health was deteriorating, they allegedly contacted some refugee organizations to try to get help for him. And apparently he didn't get help, and it's very, very vague and fuzzy as far as what happened there. Let's just say that he does have some kind of psychiatric disorder, mental illness. That does not excuse him from, or does not mean that he can't blame it all on that. You can have mental illness and be a terrorist at the same time. And then there's a new theory coming out that perhaps the Taliban had threatened him, that if he didn't carry out some kind of attack, that they would do something, kill or injure his family.
Well, there's also this issue of online radicalization. He was locked in his room for a couple of weeks, allegedly or reportedly. What effect would that have?
Regardless of how much or how little radical Islamist beliefs he brought with him from Afghanistan, certainly, subjecting yourself or reminding himself of all of these things online through the radicalization, through being back in contact either with the Taliban or ISIS or Al-Qaeda, any of these terrorist organizations, could well, especially if he was having a mental illness at the time, an episode at the time, that would remind him, that would encourage him, that would remind him to get back to his roots, things like that. So yes, and even people who weren't born in Afghanistan.
Well, I want to talk about that, because how about young people? I know that spending hours on social media can be detrimental to mental health, especially young people. And we've seen a broader trend of mass shootings, 2 assassination attempts on Donald Trump, assassination of Charlie Kirk, now the Army specialist Sarah Beckstrom in D.C. It seems there's a common thread of online radicalization. So how concerned should we be, parents, grandparents? What are the warning signs?
Parents absolutely need to be much more aware of what their kids or even their young adults are watching, what websites they're going to, what dark web portals they're going to. Much more concerned about that than most parents are. And, you know, the whole idea of kids being able to bring cell phones into class is just absurd. And so kids, especially after COVID, with the 2 years that they weren't in school, and that really has had a profound psychological impact. And so, you know, for everybody, actually, when you have PTSD, one of the symptoms is that you feel that your life is going to be shorter than what you had expected. And so teenagers and even 20-year-olds have this sense of that their life isn't going to be as long as they had thought, and they want to go out with a bang. So they're more tempted to do these really kinds of outrageous things, to get famous, to leave a legacy, you know, to be known as something before they die.
Okay, the book is Lions and Tigers and Terrorists. Oh my, how to protect your child in a time of terror. Dr. Carole Lieberman, thank you for sharing your insights. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Also on tonight's episode of The Global Lane, a former National Guardsman speaks out about the D.C. shooting and members of Congress urging U.S. troops to disobey orders and prioritizing the return of missing Ukrainian children in peace talks with the Russian President Vladimir Putin. You can watch it this evening on the CBN News Channel. It's going to begin at 8 Eastern. You can also see it on the CBN News app, and it's available right now on YouTube. Still ahead, turning to a much happier subject, the Christmas season has officially begun here at CBN with the Grand Illumination at Founders Inn. We're going to bring you the story. It's coming up right after this. Christmas season is officially underway. Families from our Hampton Roads community came out this weekend to enjoy the season's cheer at the Grand Illumination at the Founders Inn. Take a look.
Once again, the sounds of the season were a delight to all ears at the Founders Inn Grand Illumination event. The hundreds who came enjoyed local dance groups, community choirs, horse-drawn carriage rides, face painting, balloon art, Irish dancers, and a massive Christmas tree.
We enjoyed the dancing and the singing and hot chocolate and balloons, and we're looking forward to face painting and a carriage ride.
Oh no, we come every year. We've been here for, wow, 5-6 years already.
I'm looking forward to the people dancing and singing.
Carrying on the tradition of his father, Gordon Robertson read the Christmas story from the Bible.
Today in the town of David, a Savior has been born to you. He is Christ, the Lord. This will be a sign to you. You will find a baby wrapped in cloth and lying in a manger.
Then, the special moment arrived as the crowd filled the garden.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Amidst thousands of sparkling lights, he wished one and all a very Merry Christmas.
And we'll be right back with an encouraging word for your Thursday. Stay with us. You're watching CBN NewsWatch. Time now for your Thursday Thankful, and today I invite you to join me in this prayer of gratitude. God, thank you for the process. The process moves me closer to promise. The process doesn't look like the promise, but I won't be able to hold on to the promise without learning the lessons that come in process. And to that prayer, may we all now say, amen. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN Newswatch. You can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News channel. You can find them there at any time. You can also find them online at cbnnews.com. Take a moment, let us know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us, newswatch@cbn.com. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.